Hi, she's Trixie, and I'm Sarah, and this is our Yarn World, our place where we come to share the love of yarn crafting and all that it gives us and what we hope it gives you. We're on episode 183 today, and today is super exciting because my mom has something really exciting to share with you.
Yeah.
This, I believe, is going to be one step forward to her starting to stepping out of her comfort zone. I think that because I'm not saying that you're going to do it every single project. I'm not saying that you're going to do it a lot. I don't know what your, appetite for this sort of crafting is going to be. But the idea of making things outside of just the two-dimensional flat can get really addictive over time.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience.
So
First that pillow and now this.
I
know. You're going for it, Mom.
So what we're talking about, if you didn't see it in the
Last week's episode.
yes, I was able to finish the couch,
The doll couch.
even the sides,
It's all sewn together.
and so have the back,
It's so good.
and I just made it go all the way around it. Now, after our filming last week, I had Sarah tell me how to get the rest of it done, and she told me to sew up the side, and then all I'd have to do is make a couple of rectangles, which I did. And I had already sewed the bottom. She told me to take some sewing pins, and place them all over so my yarn wouldn't move. That was a good tip because I did that all over this thing so that nothing would move. I had it all placed where I needed
it to.
and then I could sew it without worrying that it was going to shift on me.
Yep.
And then, after I was done with all that, I took my dowel needle, which is probably about that long, and I went through the seated area
To keep it.
to the other side to keep it just from shifting, because it was a little larger by maybe a row. And so I just needed it to sit firmly, to balance out, and to not, it ain't gonna matter if it's a
little loose on the bottom.
loose on the bottom. But it would make a big difference if it was up here where you just want things to be level. And so now the rainbow high dowels for mine and my granddaughters and my grandsons can all sit together on their little couch and have conversations and do things and have their little cups of water and whatever. So that's what I was able to get done. I finished it like a day and a half ago.
I love that for you.
And excuse me, I have just I don't know why I'm doing this. Sorry about that.
Dry throat. It's okay.
Yeah. So I have a lot more confidence in making things a little bit more now. I mean, I did have to ask Sarah how to do a couple of things just to figure it out because I was a little stumped on how to do it. But when she told me, it just all of a sudden it clicked in my head and it was like, that makes sense. I can do that. And that's what I did, and it worked out great. And ask the people who know. It's easier that way. So if you know somebody that knows a little bit more than you do, make sure you're asking them how to do things so that it can click in your mind too. And that's the best advice I can give today because it really works. So just to remind you, the color that I used is Big Twist and the color Sage. So I'm really really happy with that. Oh, and I did hear some news on that big twist also. They said that Michaels has taken it over, has absorbed it, but they're going to name it after their store brand, and I'm not sure what that, Thread and Loop maybe?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what their store name brand is, but they're going to absorb Big Twist and name
Add
it
it,
after
yep.
their store brand.
Yep. Because they did it from similar like fiber companies, so they're able to absorb it so that we still have the ability to keep the colorways, keep the weight, keep everything.
The texture.
It's just no longer going to be Big Twist. It's going to be theirs,
Yeah.
but it's going to still have the same colors, the same material,
Yeah.
the same everything. It's just a new label. So
Yeah.
luckily we have the ability to know that if there are some projects that you're playing yarn chicken with or not sure whether you're going to make it to the end, know that you can now, even if a Michaels is not close to you, go to michaels.com and you're able to keep on what you're doing by ordering online through there, because Amazon holding big marketplaces such as Amazon or even eBay or other places like that that might be holding on to some of the last remnants of Big Twist stock are probably going to be asking you to pay much bigger prices despite the size, just because it is a everyone's trying to find their last bit of yarn for their projects, and they're able to capitalize off of it. So now that we know, we're sharing our knowledge with you.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm very grateful that some place was able to make the blow of losing Joanne's a little bit easier. I know I'm still struggling with it. Part of the reason I don't even have a project with me today is actually because of it, because my natural need to problem solve what I was lacking in my projects was because I didn't have a crafting store to go to see if I could find materials or different hardware for it, or how have you, just the ability to go and kind of just visually see if I can find what I'm trying to figure out in my brain, what is lacking to continue on with my projects. It has always been my way of keeping how to keep going. It's been my coping mechanism, so to speak. And having to figure out, going online doesn't exactly help, right? Because when you don't even know what you're trying to describe with words,
right,
you're trying to visualize something that you feel would be the missing puzzle piece to your project, and you don't even have words for it. You're just trying to see if something inspires you or feels like it will fill in that void just by walking around and seeing if something catches your eye, and you don't have that anymore. It's been kind of like this stunter for me. I haven't been able to finish some of my projects. The summer cover that I was making last week, I wanted to get a piece of hardware for the belt that I was thinking about making, and I didn't know how to look up what I was looking up, so I let it go. I know I will pick it up again. It's not about not wanting to finish the project. It's just dang it, I don't want to feel sad making my project, so I just put it down, because you know what? It does not have a rush date. I wanted to have it done by a certain time. I want to enjoy what I'm making, so I'm just letting it be. I actually picked up my sage color for in Big Twist, because I really like the color, and just kind of started playing with it because I wanted something to do with my hands. And excuse me, my nose started leaking, and I realized I wasn't going to have enough of it for what I wanted, and so I stopped. Again, trying to be respectful about my moods. I did not have it in me for very small detailed projects, so I haven't been able to pick up the Majora's Mask massive project for my nephew. Part of it's just because of how my house is right now, having people around a lot, not having my space the way I want it. And I know I sound like a broken record, but it's been a little bit crazy, especially in America where you have all the holidays and just everything going on in the summer. Maybe this is just an excuse, but in our local area, there's always just a lot going on, and the addedness of a very small house with 2 families in it doesn't exactly make it a little bit easier or keep the inspiration going. But I have a story for you today because I had wanted to share with you, despite my lack of a show and tell, something I wanted to share with you through a book, and I couldn't find it. But the reason I couldn't find it was actually for a very silly reason, so I figured I would share it with you. My mom was going through her library and decided to downsize some of her crafting books. She offered some of them to me to go through first before she passed them on to a thrift store or a secondhand store, so I was looking through them. I took what I wanted, and one of them was, I can't remember what year, but when they were, I'm sure they still do them, but you just don't hear about them as much. It's the great state fairs that used to take place much more publicly and with a lot more grandiose. In America, each state used to have their own state fair where competitions would take place, prize livestock, prize pies, prized recipes. They would always have a lot of things going on at the time. I think bands, marching bands, performers, different events would happen during that time. They would last a couple of days too. And some of the great fairs in America used to actually show off, this is a long time ago, they used to show off new medical equipment, new technology that was coming out at the time.
Innovations.
It was the time to kind of do their marketing.
Yeah.
It was when new businesses wanted to share their new idea. This was their pitch. This was before Shark Tank. This was how they used to do it, right? And that's awesome. But what I'm talking about, I think this book was in the 70s. Don't quote me on that. But the book was placed the top crocheted Afghans that were the top prize winners of each of their state fairs across the continental U.S. for that year. And that's what the book was. Now, excuse me, I found that extremely interesting because, like I said, when crocheting, knitting, any sort of thread or stitch history is emulated inside of a book, I want to keep it, whether it be patterns or designs or, even just what people thought was the in thing of the crafting. I covet those because it's so interesting to see how trends, not only of the decade, but just the way that households were coveting such looks would apply to how crafting was able to adapt to those styles and then produce such amazing art pieces. And I love it. I just love it so much. Anyway, I really want to share that with you because I want to just show you how some of them were extremely simplistic. Things that I would say, wow, that I'm surprised, but then you see how well seamed it was, how you could barely see any imperfection. Even if it was a very chill pattern, the detail, the way that it was seamless, the way that it was perfectly bordered and perfectly, like, you can tell that the judges knew what they were doing when they were choosing these, because they weren't just going for the most intricate, they were going for the best overall.
Right.
And that looked different each state. And some of it was just so awe-inspiring. And I wanted to show it with you. But the reason why I can't find it, my son found that stack of crochet and knitting crafting books. And he's like, Mom, this is what you do. And I was like, yep. He's like, I wanna look at these. And I was like, oh, okay. So he took a couple of them and he brought them to his room. And there was even one night during one of our cuddling sessions that he was just like, Mom, what is this? What is this? Can you do this? And he's just going through the books. My little 5-year-old just being like, what is this? Like, this is really cool. Do you know how to do that? And I'm like, I'm sure I could. I mean, this book teaches you these different stitches or this different patterns or whatever. And he's just like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And he just kept looking. He was so mesmerized, and he told me I couldn't take the books away. And I think he had the State Fair one, because I was asking him where they were today. And he's like, I don't know where they are in my room, but I know I have them. And I was looking in his room and I couldn't find them. But the fact that he was just like, every single time I kept asking for them when he knew where they were, he's like, but they're mine. I was like, I let you borrow them. He's like, but they're mine. He was letting me take his Dr. Seuss books out of his room, organize different other books out of his room, and he was like, but these ones are mine. I like looking at these. And I was just, okay, Kenya. Okay, buddy. And I found the fact that some people have this sense of they associate the art form as older or much more traditional due to where they view it in their family, right? Grandma's the one who crochets, or great aunt is the one who crochets, or, you know, how have you. There is a sense of it feels older or more refined or more traditional based off of where people view its placement in their family tree, right? Where they have memories of it. And yet, in my own family's experience, because of how adapted I have been, because of the influence of my grandmother, who my grandma Udell never stayed in the bubble. She always crocheted amazing things. She would never just stuck with the blanket. She used to just make a pillow. The first crochet
clothes.
The first pillow I ever had, it's dead now because it's so old, but it was a 3x3 granny square block that she had 3 different types of granny squares on, and she had sewed into a bigger square. She did that twice. But then to make it a thicker pillow, she had crocheted a long strip that would make the density, the width of it thicker, because she used a solid block of like almost like mattress foam to stuff it with. And she had that thing almost till the day she died, because when she was going into hospice, she let me have it because I loved it. And she's like, yeah, I think she just told me she whipped that together because she wanted one. This woman was just insane. I love her. But it's one of those things where the adaptability, the intenseness of it never felt old to me. I know a lot of families where, oh, my grandma used to do this, right, or my aunt used to, or whoever used to do this. And then it ended with them. With us, it's now something where when I bring these older patterned books, older stitch books, or just whatever sort of crafting books that, yeah, they're dated till the 90s or beyond. They're older because we're thrifting these. We're not doing the more modern ones because they're like $30 a pop, sadly. And they make it so hard to buy them.
Sometimes more.
Yeah. But we're thrifting them for $5 or whatever. My 5-year-old son is sneaking them into his room because he wants to be able to look at the pictures.
But that's because he sees us doing it all the time, and that's a good thing. And to break tradition, when she was homeschooling, my mother-in-law taught her how to crochet,
and then
she taught me how.
Yep.
So to break tradition from downward spiral,
Yeah.
we went a little backwards here,
Yeah.
but now we're doing it together.
But I just find it so fun because they know a little bit more better now. Not saying that there's anything wrong with how they thought of it, but when my kids were younger, they used to call the crochet and knitting needles magic wands.
Yeah, magic wands.
Because they could change yarn into something else.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
And so they used to call us magic wielders because we were able to change things. And I want to teach my kids the art form if they want to. Now, my daughter knows how to knit somewhat, and that's been an amazing thing for me. But, as she wants to, I let her. If she is not in the mood for it, it's chill.
If Daniel gets the urge to do it, I think it would be awesome.
But it's one of those things that for me, I'm just in this aspect of, today I really wanted to share with you that book because I didn't have anything else to show. And I thought, I really want to share with you this cool find that I found that really just is one of those cool little niche parts of American history. But then I was like, I kind of am okay that I lost it for today because it speaks to a different aspect of how we do impact our families by how we operate, our placement in the family unit. Some of us are cooks, some of us are teachers, some of us are providers, some of us are this, some of us are that. But then there's that whole aspect of when the little ones run into what you're doing and they steal something and they run back to be able to see what it is and get their own taste of it and just are like finding their own inspiration in what they think they can do with it.
I think it's going to be awesome.
And that gets me so excited.
I know.
Like some of the people in my family, are really good cooks, especially on my husband's side. And the way that they get inspired by cooking or tasting someone else's food, and then they're like, "Ooh, well, I could do it this way." And they get so inspired, and I'm always just awestruck by how they're just able to come up with flavor off the spot, because that just is not how my brain works. My brain works with yarn, right? My brain don't work with flavors. And it's okay, baby. It's okay. My daughter's water just fell. But it's one of those things where everyone has their own niche as to how creativity thrives within them. And when I see my kids love to play cook, and they love to play cook, and sometimes my son will be like, "I want to be a chef when I grow up because I want to be able to make good food."
Oh boy.
And I'll be like, "Okay, there's a lot of people in your family who are good cooks."
He does like to help me cook.
And so there's different things like that where it's like, again, that inspiration, how there's this activeness of, I can do it too. I see the people in my family have this craft, this ability. I want to share in that.
This is the way it gets passed down from generation to generation.
And I'm letting them want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if they start doing it and they have a desire to do it well, that I'm not going to create more structure and demand more practice and effort out of them, because that's how we actually get better.
Yep.
But I want them to want it first, and then I will help them keep up their determination. But I don't know. I just figured it's very fun to let them discover it for themselves. And seeing even my kids just sneak away with the pattern books, and all of a sudden I keep finding them in their rooms, or I'm just like, hey, where'd it go? And then I hear a chuckle somewhere, and I'm just like,
oh, it just brings joy to my heart.
So, yeah, those books that you gave to me, they're somewhere in Canada's room.
That's okay.
So I figured that was just as good of a little story as the book. Hopefully I'll have that book for you next week.
That would be really fun.
Our quote for today is
we have it's a quote from Henri Matisse, and it says, "Creativity takes courage." And I think so, because finishing this couch was a big feat for me. Took a lot of courage, but it also took the knowledge that my daughter had to give me. And I followed it and used my courage to get it done and to show you guys. So creativity takes courage.
You know, what's funny for me is that when I think of this quote and how it applies to me, is that it takes courage for me to sometimes come on here and not have a project, because creativity is ever producing new ideas in my head. And sometimes I feel very odd when I'm not always inspired to keep on the same path. I always go back to it. I always finish the project. But sometimes it's not just A to Z, the straight line. It's over here, and I've done almost like 20 projects before I come back, because the inspiration and all the other projects that led me back to that first project gives me more knowledge, more appreciation, more depth by the time I come back, that I'm like, yes, this is how I want to finish it.
Right.
It took time. It's almost like savoring. And not only does creativity take courage, but it takes adaptability. It takes it takes grace. It takes patience.
And it takes teaching it to the next generation.
And it takes letting it teach you how it wants to teach you. And sometimes that's not always how we want it to be, but creativity a lot of times is spontaneous, and we have to follow along with it. At least that's been in my experience. I am not against people who are able to finish it all the way through. I honestly am inspired by them. Sometimes I feel like I'm broken because I can't seem to stay inspired all the time. But sometimes it's a matter of finding balance and what the creativity gives me in that moment. And if it's giving me stress, I don't want to do it. I want to be able to enjoy it, because I know that when I enjoy it, I always do so much more of a better job.
Yeah.
When I force myself to do it, I don't keep to the details well. I don't actually end up liking how it looks. There's so much that it's like just giving yourself room, because it's not supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be fun. It can be challenging without it feeling like a chore. And that's the balance.
Yeah.
Being challenged by a creativity is different than feeling like creativity is
a grudge.
Or something you're forcing yourself to do.
Yeah.
It should feel natural.
And fun.
So, yeah. I appreciate everyone that came to our little side of YouTube and shared with us just some time to fellowship today.
Yeah.
We hope that you enjoyed today.
Yeah, and that you like, subscribe, comment, and tell all your friends.
As always, until next time, we hope that all your projects go well.
Yeah.
And be better than ours. And until next week, we hope that you sit your way
To mental health.